Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have Aaron Murphy with the Montana Conservation Voters Education Fund with us today. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Lawrence. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. I am super excited because I don't know very much about the Conservation Voters Education Fund, and I would love for you to tell me just a little bit about your mission and what it is you do here in our community.
Yeah, MCV Education Fund is an organization that's a membership organization. We are statewide. We happen to be based in Billings because I live here and I've lived here for a long time and I love it. But we are statewide. We have lots of members, and on behalf of our members, what we do is we educate all Montanans, regardless of their political persuasion, about issues that are important to us. And we think those issues transcend any party affiliation. It transcends politics, so we try not to stay in the muck with the MCV Education Fund. What we want to do is showcase information and facts and important things that are happening on behalf of people in their representative government so that they can engage with their elected leaders and tell them, hey, we care about these things. For us, it's clean air, it's clean water, it's climate change, it's protecting our public lands and making sure that those public lands are accessible to the public and not just locked away. And then it's also making sure that people have information about voting and have the right to vote and have the access to vote and are empowered with information to make their voting decisions based on, if they share our values, who those candidates can be.
Well, and those values, I mean, just being here in Montana, I'm sure there are a lot of individuals that really care very deeply about those priorities and want to make sure that, that not only are they getting that information, like you said, but that they're electing officials that agree with them in that way, or at least going to make responsible decisions for our Montanans.
Right. And Montana Conservation Voters Education Fund is a 501c3 organization. And so, again, it's engagement, empowerment, information. We also have an organization, a sister organization, just Montana Conservation Voters. That's a 501c4, and that's an organization that has a little sharper elbows when it comes to the political landscape. So in that organization, we endorse certain candidates, and we do that based on just their values. We don't look at party affiliation, and then we make sure that voters have information about them and that we hold them accountable to what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. Do you find that crosses party lines frequently?
Yes and no. It depends on really the candidate. In my political experience, I found that Montanans really identify with the actual person and not necessarily party affiliation. Of course, there are people who do that, but for us, it's really about the issues at hand. And again, for us, it's about protecting what makes Montana the last best place, because we have a wonderful state to live in with clean air, clean water, where we can have our kids play outdoors and not necessarily worry about it. Those things we can never take for granted. And in fact, they're constantly under attack on Capitol Hill, the state legislature, even here at the city level. So we fight for all of those levels of government.
Well, I can tell you, just being from South Carolina, I can't imagine, raising my children or developing a better community than we have right here in Montana, with the access that we enjoy and the the outdoor education that we have access to. And I mean, it really is a fantastic place.
Yeah. And so what we do with the MCV Education Fund is we make sure that people are aware of what's happening out there. So for example, when the pandemic hit back in April, we were stuck inside like everybody else, and we noticed that the Keystone XL pipeline was under construction. We oppose the pipeline as a matter of conservation. We think that there are other means to do it more safely and in a place that doesn't cross through Native American land. And so for us, that's very important. So what we did is we formed a podcast, and we have a weekly podcast that comes out every Friday. It's called MCV Cast, and it is a statewide podcast, but the three of us, we have somebody call in from Helena and somebody from Bozeman, and then me here in Billings, and we produce a podcast that people can listen to every week. And it's you can find it at mtvoters.org/podcast.
That's amazing, and what a fantastic way to sort of pivot, in light of everything that was going on, and knowing that there were more people indoors, but that still wanted to engage and know what's going on. That's a fantastic way just to share that information.
It's been a lot
and educate people. Very cool. So tell me a little bit about how you got involved.
I started out in Billings, actually, working at KTVQ, and then got swept up into Senator John Tester's campaign back in 2006, and have have been with him up until the very beginning of last year, actually. And I left his office as his chief of staff and was asked to consider applying for this position. They were in between executive directors, and I had the honor of being offered that position. And so what I did was establish a presence here in Billings with it, because MCV has a pretty large presence in places like Missoula and Bozeman, but we're now headquartered here downtown.
Very cool.
And so I that's how I got interested in it. I've been familiar with the organization ever since I got here. So now I get to sit in this chair and look at the political landscape and the environmental landscape, and with a really good team of people around me and a pretty sizable membership, say, hey, we care about this, we care about that, and this person isn't doing what we need them to be doing, so let's engage people.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So what are you currently working on, or what's coming out of MCV right now?
Really exciting project for the MCV Education Fund this summer is we're going to assemble, if we can, a ground team. So a team of people that go door to door. We're very cognizant of the public health concern out there. So if you
need masks, let me know. We're doing our Mask Crusaders project. We'd love to help.
We'll definitely be wearing masks. There is a possibility. We don't want to endanger anybody, and if we need to, we'll go on phones and via text messages. But what we would like to do with the Education Fund is educate Montanans about a talking point that we're hearing too often, which is that individual states should manage the federally owned public land that is in those states. A lot of people agree we should not sell off our public lands, but a lot of those same people say, yeah, but we should transfer the management of them to a place like the state of Montana.
Right.
Well, for us, that's code language for we actually really do want to sell these public lands off, because if the state of Montana has to manage huge national forests and national parks and wildfires,
do they have the capacity to do that?
They don't. Yeah. And so what's the next logical step? It is to sell it to the highest bidder. And for us, that's a huge red flag. So what we want to do is make sure everybody knows that when you hear maybe states should be in charge of managing our federally owned lands, we want to say, wait a second, that's the same thing eventually as selling those off. So that's what we'd like to do as the summer proceeds. And we'll be on the ground and making a big campaign of it. And of course, with our other organization, as we near toward November 3rd, which is Election Day, that we are also tracking all of the political happenings out there.
Very neat. Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot going on. And I have to admit, those are things that I really hadn't thought of at the local level anyways, but would obviously impact us all as we're looking towards, the growth of Montana and what comes next for us as residents here.
Yeah, it's something we're paying a lot of attention to. So we care about the big federal bills that are happening on Capitol Hill, but we also care about the very local issues. So for example, last year with MCV, we actually endorsed several candidates on the Billings City Council that we identified as conservation champions. And again, those are races that aren't Democrat or Republican or independent.
What a fun title.
Yeah, exactly.
Conservation champion.
Yeah, conservation champion.
I want to be one of those.
We endorsed several folks, and we are proud to say that that most of them won, and we now have a conservation majority on the Billings City Council. So we do things at a very local level. We're looking at Bozeman. You mentioned the growth. Bozeman is just exploding with growth.
Right.
And we're looking at a race there with the Gallatin County Commission. We have an opportunity to install a conservation champion into that office too. So again, I want to make it clear that we are not a partisan organization. We just care about values, and we think those values are bigger than any party.
They are, and just to be able to influence those, elections and the decisions that are being made, and the people, that we are electing to make those decisions. It's such an important topic. I'm really glad to hear this and to learn more about it. I want to thank you so much for coming on today and for joining me, Aaron. It's been really, really very informative.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and really happy that you're doing this, and would encourage anybody who is interested in us. Our main website is mtvoters.org, and on that you can see our Education Fund website, which is mtvotersedfund.org.
Awesome.
Invite people to check it out, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, and check out the podcast too. I'm excited. That's fun.
It's very exciting.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.